I'm Esther Buerki, the author of Living Without Fear and the co-publisher of Inspired Journeys. I help you overcome your fears in life and writing your book. I offer a course called Believe You Can Write, and I support you in one-on-one coaching. Get in touch with me if you need help, or order my biography, Living Without Fear. And please share this podcast with a friend who you know needs to hear this episode. And why not writing a review so that many more people will find this episode? And today I'd like to talk about the relationship with our parents. I hope they are still alive as mine are. They will be soon 88 in January. But if your parents aren't with you anymore, you can definitely use what I say for other relationships with your loved ones, for example. So I've been on a huge transformational journey with my parents in the last 2 years. Years ago, I hated them. I wanted them to be dead. I didn't talk to them for months or also for years. They quickly got on my nerves when they visited me or when I brought my boys to them when they were small and when we talked on the phone. They got on my nerves when I was on the road with them and I observed them how they interacted with other people. Sometimes I was ashamed for their behavior. Sometimes I couldn't believe that I belonged to this family. I felt so different. In the last few years, I started calling them regularly, and every time I heard my mother's voice, I knew exactly how she felt. Most of the time, she was depressed. And I couldn't stand her anymore because she was so self-centered and she was the center of the universe. She rarely said, "Oh, nice that you're calling. Nice to hear your voice. How are you doing?" My father is different. He is less self-centered. He shows interest in what others do. He's able to reflect on himself and he can show empathy. But years ago, he was rather aggressive towards me and he kept on picking on me and hurting me all the time. This year, I started visiting them every 2 weeks and we talk on the phone every week. And I love spending time with them. Eat together, play Rummikub, looking at old pictures, and talking about their life before my brother and I was born. I learned so much about them in this year. Every time I see them, I learn new details about their life. And we laugh together, and it's fun to be with them, most of the time. The last time, a grandchild in her late 20s, one of my brother's daughters, came by spontaneously with her boyfriend. And the two of them asked my parents how they were doing. Although I have had already a few good laughs with my mother during the hours before, she answered, "Oh, I'm doing very bad. I'm not enjoying my life anymore, and I wished I were already dead." I was shocked. And to top this, she started talking about about my father's mother, how she has been disliked by her, and how she had suffered immensely under my grandma's hatred. I was shocked, really shocked. I felt ashamed and then sad. My mother wasn't able to create a positive image for her grandchild. This grandchild will probably keep this sad memory of her in mind. When the visitors were gone, I told my mother that I wished from the bottom of my heart that she could forgive her mother-in-law, because still sticking to these negative feelings wouldn't help her in her last years or months in her life. But I told you this story for another reason. I want to share with you how much we can change others by changing ourselves. When I see my parents today, they rarely complain about their lives. My mother had completely stopped talking about her negative feelings towards others in front of me, or about dying. She really enjoys the time we spent together. She smiles when I arrive, and she laughs when we are playing Rummikub together. And my father started talking about his life more openly and sharing his experiences. And I feel totally different than in the past. I enjoy so much listening to him because he opens small windows to his life. And he gives me the chance to understand why he has had such a hard time with me when I was a teenager, or the years and even decades later. So what I'd like to teach you in this episode is that it is never too late to approach things differently. If I had stayed convinced that my parents were difficult and it was impossible to change this relationship, I would have never experienced those beautiful moments with them as I do nowadays. And I'm so grateful for every Saturday we can spend together, because it might be our last one together. Try it out with your relationships, either with difficult parents or difficult children or even difficult colleagues. And if you haven't read it yet, order my book, Living Without Fear, on Amazon. Thank you, dear listener, for still being here with me in this moment. Appreciate yourself for this. And if nobody told you today, you're awesome, you're loved, and you matter. And thank you so much for sharing this podcast with someone who needs to hear this episode. Have an amazing day and talk to you next week.